Amongst the diverse viewpoints that members of the scientific community hold on origins, there are a majority of PhD scientists out there who advocate for evolution. However, there is also a legitimate minority of PhD scientists who argue for young Earth creation. This video is intended to explain two parallel views within the creation-evolution debate: the creation orchard and the evolutionary tree of life, and will also explain some of the points that scientists in these two camps agree upon and those that they disagree upon. According to evolution, all life on Earth arose from one single-celled organism billions of years ago. Evolutionists use the analogy of a branching tree to describe how all life on Earth, the plants, animals, fungi, and everything else, arose from this primitive organism. Scientists who advocate for young Earth creation, on the other hand, view life on Earth as being an orchard, where things like lions, tigers, leopards, and house cats are all related to each other, but not to dogs. Creation scientists refer to the distinct groups of organisms that God created during the creation week as created kinds, and one created kind, or baramin, may include a number of today's species. To an evolutionist, the fact that two animals may share some things in common is evidence that they share a common ancestor. To a creation scientist, dogs and cats, for example, share certain traits because they have a common designer. Just as an architect will design buildings with many features in common for a similar purpose, our God has created our world with many animals that share a lot of similar features, both for engineering purposes and to point people to the fact that one God created them all. I will soon be adding another video showing and explaining in detail an answer to the common evolutionary argument that the similarities we see between species proves that they were all the result of a common ancestor. Creation scientists argue that Noah's flood was a real event, and that the animals that Noah brought onto the ark are able to explain the diversity of land vertebrates that we see today through well-known facts about genetics. When God first created horses, according to the creation model, He did not create each individual variety of horses that we see today. Instead, He created the horse kind, a group of horses with a large amount of diverse genetic information. Later, Noah brought just one pair of the horse kind onto the ark. It was only after the flood that the descendants of these two horses became zebras, donkeys, modern farm horses, and even varieties that are now extinct, like the tiny three-toed horses that we see at museums. Each of the new species of horses that came from this one pair on Noah's Ark carries with it only a fraction of the variety of genetic information that was originally available. This is not, however, the same as Darwinian evolution. I will explain that briefly in a few minutes, and in depth in a later video. Now, many of you ask, how is this possible? Here we see an illustration of a variety of hypothetical birds that are all descended from just one pair of birds from Noah's Ark. For the sake of simplicity, in this diagram, these birds vary in only a few traits, and although this physical variation may seem very large, it is easily explained through simple Mendelian genetics. Inside of DNA, there are 4 bases, represented by the letters A, C, G, and T. If you have a mating pair of just 2 birds, it is possible to have a point, or a locus, in the DNA where all 4 bases are represented between the 2 of them. Since there are 2 birds, and each bird will have 2 complete sets of chromosomes, all 4 bases can be represented for a given point. As a result, there can be up to 10 different combinations of these variations or alleles. By using a chart like this one, we can see that there are 16 different possible outcomes. However, 6 of these are redundant, which gives us 10 different possible combinations for just this one location in the bird's genome. Some of you may be wondering why all of the birds in this diagram do not follow the simple color rules that we learned in art class, such as blue and yellow make green. The reason for this is that genetics is far more complicated than mixing two sets of paint together. Genetics is not always as simple as a gene for yellow and a gene for blue will give you a green bird. Although this is just an illustration with two hypothetical birds, it follows a real-life concept that different combinations of alleles in DNA can give us many different combinations of traits when they are expressed. Beak size is another good example of how genetics can explain the diversity of traits that we see in offspring from Noah's Ark. It is known that breeding together two finches with medium-sized beaks will give you offspring with large, medium, and also small beaks via Mendelian genetics. It is not unreasonable to say that two medium-sized finches on Noah's Ark could do the same thing that we see in birds today. After the birds left Noah's Ark and eventually made it to the Galapagos, natural selection on some islands would favor finches with large beaks, while finches with small beaks would either have a hard time surviving or be eliminated altogether. On other islands, though, small or medium beaks were favored, depending on the types of food that were around. Mutation has also played a role in shaping the animals that we see on Earth today. Both creation scientists and evolutionists agree that mutation and natural selection do occur. There are times when fish will swim into caves and become stuck in there. Over the course of generations, fish are known to lose their eyes and their pigmentation, because natural selection favors the fish with mutations for no eyes and those with mutations for no pigmentation. See my video on blind cave fish for details. Often, evolutionists will say that the term evolution simply means that species change over time. They will then go on to use the term evolution to reference the idea that all life on Earth developed from one single common ancestor billions of years ago with no outside intelligence guiding the process. This is known as a bait and switch tactic. Evolutionists will define evolution one way and then use the term with a totally different meaning, without informing the reader, lumping two different concepts together as one. The fact that a group of fishes may lose their eyes in a cave is not the same thing as a fish becoming a philosopher over billions of years. In a short time, I will be posting a video addressing the question of whether a species changing over time is truly the same as Darwinian evolution. By the time you watch this, that other video may already be posted. In the meantime, however, please feel free to check out some of my other videos and also check out my website for more information on creation versus evolution and to learn about the God who loves you. Please see greenslug.com and the specialized search engines on this site to answer the many questions that this video undoubtedly raised in your minds. Often complex questions have a very simple answer. I was once an evolutionist myself. There is a biblical proverb that says, "Fools have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions." Proverbs 18:2. And another one that says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man is he who listens to counsel." Proverbs 12:15. There is also a Chinese proverb that says, "He who asks a question is a fool for a moment, but he who never asks a question is a fool for a lifetime." I would like to add also that part of asking questions is taking the time to seek answers. Asking a question or refusing to seek the answer is just a fool's way of dismissing any idea that he doesn't like.